Oh wow, even with a 30% projected growth rate and a price to sales ratio of 20, the company still, and just so you know that the analysis that we're about to perform and the information that I'm about to give you is going to be helpful and hopefully not useless. I just want to tell you a little bit of my background. So I used to work for one of Canada's largest real estate investment trusts. I analyzed over $1 billion worth of deals in the real estate industry, and I have developed a lot of skills in financial analysis. I'm actually the founder and CEO of White Sheets, where I analyze companies all the time. So I wanted to come up and perform this analysis for you so that way you can see where my thoughts are at. And I feel like my opinion is going to be interesting because I've never looked at Nvidia as a potential investment opportunity. I just heard about it, but this is the time where we start to do the real research that is going to lead to some very interesting conclusions. Okay, so the first thing that I like to look at before analyzing any company, and this is inspired by Warren Buffett, is to read the company's annual report. We're gonna do that, but I'm also gonna go over the competition, the market, management team, valuation, financial health, etc. You can skip to all of those parts of the analysis of Nvidia by just going on the different sections of the video. To analyze the company's annual report, what I recommend that you do is that you go to the SEC filings, or what you can do is go to the investors relations page like I'm doing right now for Nvidia. And then what I recommend is that you download this as a PDF instead of just open it on the browser. Once you have it downloaded, this allows you to see the information like this. And if you have a big enough screen, the cool thing is that you're going to be able to just browse through 2 pages at a time, so that way you can read the information a lot faster. Okay, so this section is absolutely critical to understanding the business, and in this case what we can see is that the business has 2 kind of main types of businesses. So first, obviously developing and being able to sell the GPUs that it produces, either to consumers or to companies that are using these different GPUs for different purposes. Some people use them to play video games, other people use this to be able to train AI machine learning models. And what they also offer is their data centers, which is very interesting, and this is something that is absolutely necessary to be able to train AI models at a large scale, and being able to do it without spending like tremendous amount of money on the hardware yourself. You can just leverage the resources the company already has and use that infrastructure. So as you can see right here, innovation is absolutely critical to the company's success. The moment the company stops innovating, the moment the competition is going to catch up. And we haven't gotten into the margins or any of the financial analysis. I have not looked at the numbers yet, but those numbers will be affected right away if the company stops innovating. This is just the nature of the business and the nature of the cycle. We've seen this with companies like Intel, who were once very strong market leaders, but they stopped innovating and now they're kind of falling behind. So just something important to keep in mind. Now we get into the markets of the business. So this is the data center, and compute is a big service that is offered at these types of services. Let's see what else. We have gaming, which we already talked about, absolutely essential. And gaming is huge. Like, this market is just tremendous and just keeps growing for good reason. People love games. Professional visualization, yeah, this is great. This is like in order to be able to create high quality and high definition graphics that you may see in movies or whatnot. A lot of the times you need this type of hardware and GPUs to be able to process that. Automotive is another key sector. This is going to be critical for the enablement of cars that are able to drive themselves, so self-driving cars. So yeah, the company has very good sort of segments that it can grow into, and a lot of opportunities for growth. Yeah, so as you can see here now, it talks about the company's business strategy. This is absolutely essential to know, and here they're not really giving much. They're just saying we want to advance our strategy in all the different sectors that we participate in, which is not very insightful really, but nonetheless something that is absolutely essential to know. What I would like to know though is, and maybe we're going to do some research, is what is the growth and the potential for each of these markets, like the computer graphics, autonomous vehicles, computing platform, right? Just to see what kind of potential we have there. Yeah, so the company company has a lot of IP. This is absolutely essential because it keeps competitors from being able to successfully develop competitive products. Seasonality, manufacturing, competition. Nothing too crazy here. Government regulations. Yeah, government regulations could be a big thing because I know in the US there might have been, we're gonna do some more research, but there might have been some regulations that were imposed to kind of like revamp the development of GPUs. And the US may not want a lot of manufacturing to be taking place in other nations like China and whatnot. So just something to keep in mind. Human capital, recruitment, development. Okay, this is good. This is good for employees. That means they really care about what's going on with their employees, which is always a good sign. Diversity. Okay. Flexible work environment. Yeah, this is interesting, especially for a company of this size that relies on the manufacturing and development of hardware. I don't know, I mean, maybe it works well for the software kind of section of the business, but I don't know if it works that well for hardware. Now here we learn a little bit more about the top management team. So here we have the CEO, which is notoriously famous. Then we also have some of the other key team members over here. So that is good to know, so that way we can get a good idea of their backgrounds and where they came from and what they're looking to achieve at the company. Yeah, so now we get to the risk sections. We talk about the innovation and adapting to customer needs. The supply chain, the company really has to have a very solid supply chain in order to not be disturbed by different things that can happen. We know there was a pandemic in the past and there's so many different things, like even now the CrowdStrike outage. We know that this stuff is possible, and therefore for a company at the scale and the influence of Nvidia, it really needs to be well positioned to handle any kind of issues that may arise for whatever reason. Yeah, the other thing is the reliance on the subcontractors. I think TSM is one of those subcontractors, which they rely on to be able to manufacture and deliver the products that the company produces. So that's something to keep in mind. Cyber attacks. Nothing new for digital businesses. Now, this is very interesting. Usually, a lot of the times, companies would post a graph like this that shows how the stock has performed relative to an index, usually something like the S&P 500. And in this case, this is pretty crazy, and this is the reason why the company is really interested in Nvidia. What we can see is that the company has had huge growth from the very beginning. So yeah, I think this is one of the things that is driving the excitement for a lot of people that are looking into Nvidia stock. The only caveat to keep in mind is that anything that goes up eventually has to come down. So is that what is going to happen next? This is what we're going to find out through our research. This is good. This is very positive. It really tells us that the company is aware of the main risks, the main problems that the company could face, and that it's taking the necessary steps to be able to address those and be in as good of a position as you can get, right? I mean, not like every business is going to have a degree of risk, but I think the company is doing a good job at taking advantage of the growth opportunities while also protecting itself. Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. Now we can see some of the key financial numbers. So in terms of revenue, we have 60 billion, almost 61 billion. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is a massive change from the 26 billion from the year before. Now, is that sustainable? That's what we're gonna get into as we talk about the company. Operating expenses were very similar. Wow, this is kind of crazy. The operating expenses were very similar, yet the company grew a lot. Gross margins went up, net income. Wow, this is pretty crazy. No wonder people are fascinated with Nvidia. Yeah, looks like we're gonna get into the numbers in more detail, but this is good to see. Now let's see what is driving the revenue here. So we can see graphics is growing, but not as much as compute and networking. Okay, so compute is definitely going to be very important for the company's future. Graphics, compute, other. Okay, yeah, it makes sense. The compute and networking is really critical for all the new innovation that is taking place with AI, autonomous driving vehicles, etc. Graphics, yeah, that's a little bit more of the hardware side, which is probably harder to scale. Research and development expenses going up, but they don't seem unreasonable. That's the crazy thing. the company has so many resources and yet they're only investing 8 billion. That's pretty good. I mean, we'll have to look at what competitors are investing, but it seems like they could invest even more. Yeah, now we get into the financials and all the different accounting policies. I'm just gonna skip all this stuff because we're gonna get into the financials after, once we do a deep dive of that. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet that I'm gonna be using. Now this model maybe will change and use another model, but don't look at these numbers because this is just a template that I built where I can just simply change the company ticker and all of the data updates. But in this case, we're gonna be analyzing Nvidia. So if I go back to Nvidia, you can see that the data updates, and we're gonna be using this template for many different reasons. But before we get into the template, financial analysis, valuation, etc., we're gonna analyze the different tenets of the company. So we already looked at the company a little bit by reading the company's annual report. The next tenet that we're gonna knock out is the market analysis. For that, one of the best things that I recommend that you do is that you look at market growth reports, because that way you can get a better idea of how much the market is expected to grow and what are the key drivers in that growth to see whether or not the company is well positioned to take advantage of those. So what we're going to do is, in this case, there's two markets that are relevant. So in this case, we have the GPU market. So we're going to look at this one right here. This is looks like a good source. These guys, markets and markets, they have good reports that I've used in the past. And then let's see what these guys are saying at Mortar Intelligence as well. So 21%. So this talking about PC gaming consoles. So that is good to know. And here is what the graph looks like according to their forecasting. And yeah, it is accelerating, which makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of demand for these different GPUs. Key drivers, so PC game and gaming consoles. All of these consoles, they all need GPUs to operate efficiently and provide the graphics that now you see on video games, which are just absolutely crazy. Here in this case, 34%, so more aggressive estimate. This is why it's good to look at different estimates, so you can kind of take the average or what you think is more reasonable based on your research. We can see that, yeah, data center GPUs, the growth is going crazy, and this is because companies need that to be able to train AI models for any kind of AI application. So that is really good to know, and this is very congruent with what's happening with the company at Nvidia. We saw the numbers ourselves. Now these guys also have a 32% major players. Interesting that they have Nvidia here, but they don't have it as like a V player. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it seems, we'll do more research, but it seems like they are really absolutely crushing it so far. But okay, we're gonna go back to the spreadsheet, make a note over here, GPU market. If I had to say, I would put growth of 27%, and this is just based on the reports that we just looked at. Now, the other market that is very relevant is the cloud computing market. So in this case, let's see what the reports say. This is gonna be interesting to know. So these guys at Grandview Research, they provide very good resources here. This is good, so that way we also look at the same resource as before. And then let's look at these guys as well. So here, what they have is 21% cloud computer size. A lot of it happening from SaaS and platform as a service, which is interesting. Here, these guys say 15%. And here's 17%. So I would probably pick a number like 15%. Let's see if there's any other key drivers. Hybrid cloud services. Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Market segmentation, data securities. Yep, data security concerns. Yeah, that's a big thing. Okay, so that is really good to know. Okay, so in this case, the cloud computing estimated growth, I would put at 15%. So this is very valuable information to know about the company. Now, this is not finished. What we need to do is analyze the market a little bit more. And by that, I mean analyze the competition. So one of the things that is critical is to look at who owns or who controls the market right now. So if we go to GPU market size by company, this is going to be helpful to know who are the main competitors, even though like we already know some of that information already. So let's do this. Nvidia GPU market share. Oh wow, so in this case 88%, which is pretty crazy. So let's see if this shows what the other players have. GPU market share. Okay, so that's helpful to know here. When we do Nvidia market share, we know that the company has a market share of 80.2%, which is pretty crazy. I mean, at that point, you own the whole market. I would like to see what the other companies have. So let's see AMD market share, 63% of CPUs. What about AMD GPU? So AMD has 15%, let's say Intel. Yeah, this is information that is kind of contradictory. So this is the thing about this research. Sometimes it's very difficult to get the accurate information, but we know that the company has an 80% market share in GPUs, which means that this number is going to come in super clutch and is going to be the absolute most critical for our valuation. It's something to keep in mind. Now let's see cloud computing. Nvidia cloud computing market share. 92% of data center GPU market. Wow. So that's a huge difference right there. That's a massive number. So no wonder Nvidia is so dominant. So 92% GPU data center market. So yeah, GPUs are everything for Nvidia at this point. They're extremely good at being able to manufacture them, make them superior than the competition, and that's why they have all this market share. So okay, that is good to know. At least we now know more about the market. Now let's look more into the management team. So Nvidia management team, we already saw who the people are just based on the annual report, but in this case, let's just see who these people are. And what I like to do too is not just like look at their LinkedIn or something like that, although that's helpful, but look at like interviews of them, because that way you can really understand their background, their mindset, their mission. Founder, president, founder, and Nvidia fellow. Okay. So, okay, that's good to know. So Jensen right here is absolutely critical to the company's operations. Here we have some of the other officers. So I want to be able to look at both of these guys right here. So let's say Chris, let's see if we can just find him. I don't think he's as essential to the company as Jensen, so we don't have to go too crazy into him. But let's see if there's any interesting information on him. Okay, so he's the Senior Vice President, Engineering and Operations. He used to work at HP, so very experienced engineering from Florida College. That's interesting. Okay, that's good to know. Here, there's nothing else. I wonder if you look him up on YouTube, if there's any videos about him. Let's see what shows up. Okay, so here's a video of him. I'm not gonna play it with you. I'm just gonna watch it and give you my thoughts after. Let's see if there's any other video right here. Okay, so I'm gonna watch this one as well. Before we get into the videos themselves, what I like to do as well is see if we can find the CEO's profile on Indeed and see his approval rate, because that is very helpful. So 4.2 in terms of reviews, that seems very good. Okay, so here's some of the reviews. Free snacks and ping pong table, good place to productive and fun. Productive. Typical 9 to 5 hour was okay, since it's a TTC station, although everything has to be NDA. That makes sense because there's a lot of technology. Everyone loves a winner, mixed feelings. Compensation stock as your sudden shift in attitude became cutthroat environment. No idea. Interesting. So this is helpful to know, to see how good the management are being to the employees. But so far, I mean, for a massive company like Nvidia, this rating is really good. You can see some of the other companies that have way lower ratings. Intel actually seems pretty good. 3.8 AMD. So this is very valuable information to have. So that helps. Now let me look at the videos and I'll tell you my thoughts after. Okay, so I watched the two videos and this video is actually very interesting. I highly recommend that you watch it if you're interested in Nvidia and the founders. But here what we can see is that in this case, Chris, a key member of the Nvidia team, is a very smart man, but also just very down to earth. Somebody who, as he describes himself, is a tinker, somebody that just likes to play around with new technologies and produce innovations. And I mean, he hit it big time with Nvidia and the technologies that that they built at the company, but he just seems like a really down-to-earth, very smart person, and of course his influence was huge in the space. So that's what I learned from this video. From this other video, he talks more about his leadership lessons that he learned along the way, and he says very positive stuff, such as like the importance of being able to develop the people that work with you. How do you do that? How do you show empathetic leadership? How do you provide mentorship while also performing your own duties as a manager and somebody that works for a corporation at the same time? So yeah, overall just a very solid person. Now what I want to do is the same for the CEO. So let's see what kind of videos we can watch and what we can learn about him. I also want to look him up on Google to see if there's any interesting information that shows up. So let's do this. His profile on Forbes. There's not a lot of stuff we can go off. Let's see what it says right here. Yeah, his background from Taiwan. That's a key competitive advantage because a lot of this different elements in the hardware of these GPUs and just computer parts in general are produced in Taiwan. So that's definitely a big advantage. AMD. Okay, so he worked at AMD, so that's a massive advantage as well. He owns 3.6% of Nvidia stock. Okay. Yeah, building a hardware company is a very difficult process, but it's great that they did it, and now we have some good products out there in the market. Yeah, so he just seems like a great founder, but one of the best things that we could do is watch some videos on him. So let's see what we're gonna pick. Okay, so I like this one because this talks about like AI. This one's gonna be interesting, talking about leadership. Maybe this one about his experience on Nvidia. Let's see this one right here as well. So there's tons of videos for the CEO of Nvidia. It makes a lot of sense. He's quite a personality, very famous, running one of the largest companies in the entire world. So it makes a lot of sense. Like we did before, I'm just gonna watch the interviews and tell you my thoughts. Okay, so I just finished watching all of the different videos, and there's a lot to unpack for each of the videos, but the general takeaway from all these different videos is, you know, Jensen is not only a very smart individual, but he's also very down to earth. He's extremely hardworking. He often talks about the importance of a CEO sometimes sacrificing sleep to be able to achieve remarkable things. So that was really interesting, something that a lot of CEOs don't talk about. Also, his style of management. He has this phrase where he talks about not giving up on people and really believing in them and torturing them into becoming great in the company. That's exactly his phrase. So that's very interesting, and that's good because at the end of the day, what you want of a CEO is to push the people to achieve the best that they can achieve and to build something that's remarkable and long lasting, and he's definitely done a tremendous job on that. I think his background just in the industry, having worked in AMD, as well as just having the experience and connections at some of the chip companies that were way before him, provides him with a unique competitive advantage and context that most people don't have. And so yeah, all this really contributes to him being a CEO. So when it comes to analyzing the management team, this is excellent. The only thing that I want to look at more is the compensation. Okay, so we can see here the compensation. There's two different sources. So we can see in this case, 34 million of this, 900 was received as a salary. So $1 million as a salary, 4 million was received as a bonus, 0 in stock options, and then 26 awarded as stock, and 2.4 other types of compensation. Interesting, that's really good to know. Yeah, so this compensation seems reasonable. The only thing that I want to know more about is what is the stock compensation based on? Let's see if it's something. What is Jensen compensation on No, it doesn't say what the compensation is based on, which would be really good to know, but it's okay. The good thing is that the compensation seems pretty reasonable, I mean, given the performance of the company. So the next thing that we're gonna do is to analyze the company health. So one of the things that I like to do is just to look at the old school financial reports for this. I like to look on an annual basis. So what I'm gonna do here is I am going to get the financials for Nvidia. So here we go. I'm gonna look first at the standardized financials just to see the main patterns that are taking place. So right away what stands out is just this huge growth that we see right here. Now here there might be something wrong because the revenue seems to be exactly the same. 16, 10, 9. Wow. So it seems like the company was, I mean, it's definitely a massive company, but here, this is where they took a huge leap. And then the gross profit ratio means same thing. That's pretty impressive. What else? Research and development has been, steadily increasing, but like a reasonable rate. Depreciation, amortization over here. Interest expense. So the company does have some debt, but you know, it's not a lot. Operating income ratio, very good operating income ratio. Net income, this grew massively. I think what's going on here with Nvidia, I haven't looked at what the stock price is or the stock chart, but I think what it is people expect this type of jump to continue to happen, which for a company of this size is very difficult. But if it does happen, then it could be really good for the stock price. So I think this is what's going on, and this is what people are banking on. The net income ratio, again, because of this massive jump, then all of a sudden now you're looking at a very profitable business. My concern here is that this is a very recent sort of jump, and I don't know how reliable this is going to be and how sustainable it really is, but we'll see. Here on the balance sheet we can see the assets 44, so big jump in the assets, non-current assets. So most of the assets are current, which is good because it means the company is liquid. Accounts payable, so 10 compared to the current of 44. That's a very good ratio, which means the company can easily cover its short-term obligations. Non-current liabilities is not that much, which is really good. Total liabilities 22 billion. Stockholders equity 42. These are very good numbers. Let's see the total debt. 11 billion from what I can see. 11 billion, okay. Net debt is 3. Okay, that's good to know. Debt levels seem to be reasonable. Net income here. Here what I'd like to look at is the different patterns of the cash flows. So what we can see is pretty reasonable numbers, and for the most part an increase over here, and it's positive, which is good. Investing activities, this is good because you want the company to make a lot of investments so that it can continue with its growth, especially in an industry and a type of business that's very capital intensive. Provided financing activities, so here it means that it paid off a lot of debt. I think what happened during the pandemic is that it had to take a lot of debt to be able to deal with some of the supply issues that the company was having, and now the company has a lot more cash, so it's like, okay, you know what, let's just pay it off. So this is why we can see the negative cash over here for the last 2 years. And overall free cash flow, massive jump, but pretty healthy for the most part, although, you know, it's not as good as it could be. It seems pretty low, especially I have a feeling, I haven't looked, but once we look at the company's market capitalization, I feel like it's going to be a huge multiple, but I guess we'll see. Other metrics here that are interesting: P/E ratio over time around 50, 18, 25. Imagine like if you bought right here, this would have been really nice. Price to sales ratio around the 20 mark right now. Price to operating cash flow, price to book 20 times, damn, which is quite a lot. The return invested capital, here this was very good number, than before it just wasn't. And my concern is that this is not necessarily sustainable, but we'll see. I mean, it's very possible, right? The company, it is kind of performing miracles in a way, right? ROE, we can see the number is pretty good, pretty stable, and then we can just skip the financial growth other than revenue growth, of course, because this is quite telling. So 125%, and then for the most part here, nothing. And then here we got this. So, you know, this is pretty good growth for a massive company, but not the best. Let's see what the SEC financials show. So if we do Nvidia, I think the last year was 2024, so we could do 2024 SEC as reported. Let's see if we see anything different over here. So income statement, oh, I think we have the right numbers, just the number is very similar for the income statement, so that's good to know. Yeah, nothing too crazy over here. On the balance sheet, it's basically the same information we just looked at. I just want to make sure that we didn't miss any critical components that would really affect the valuation and the financial health of the company. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go on this tab right here, sheet 1 of the spreadsheet, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change the company ticker. If you want to know how this works, just briefly, this uses functions that come from Y-Sheets, and Y-Sheets is this add-on right here that allows you to pull in the data that you need automatically in your spreadsheet. So that's how that works. When you click enter, the data refreshes, and that way you don't have to copy paste the data every time you analyze a company. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm just going to expand this and let's see what we can find. So revenue, we already looked at that. The market cap, okay. Market cap on a TTM basis tells you this is the real-time market cap of the company right now. So what we see is, yeah, this is just crazy. This is just crazy. So 1,000 million, billion, trillion, 3 trillion in market cap. I knew it was gonna be insane just based on the hype, but I didn't know it was gonna be this crazy. And then the year before it was, oh man, wow, it was 1.5, so it doubled, which for a company with this market cap is extremely difficult. And this is why people are super excited about Nvidia. And then before, look at the numbers before. This is crazy. This is just crazy. But I think the FOMO is a real thing with Nvidia. People really think that they're gonna miss out, and this is why the market cap is absolutely whack. Price to sales ratio 37, 25, 17. So it's gone all over the place. If I had to say what a reasonable number is, I mean, the company's growing a lot, so it's hard to say, but it'd be nice if you could just pay maybe like a 15. That would be pretty nice. PE ratio 70, which is absolutely crazy. 51, 50. So I don't know if you could pay 30, that would be awesome, but it's not possible right now. Yeah, and then here it would be nice to do 15, but yeah. But we'll see. I mean, if the growth outpaces the price, then you could make an argument that it makes sense to buy the stock. We can see the revenue in relationship to the market cap. So the market cap has a huge jump, but as we can see, this jump, I don't know if it's justified by just this increase in revenue. So we're gonna look into that, and then here we have the price to sales ratio on a quarterly basis, 60, 60, 50, 40, 30. Yeah, so getting it for 50 would be nice, just like on a quarterly basis. If we adjust it annually, this would mean like 15 would be nice. Would be nice to get, and that's what we were talking about before. Okay, so that's helpful to know. If we look at these tenants right here, company health, yeah, the company is very much financially healthy, low levels of debt, high profitability, extreme growth for the last year. Cash flows look pretty healthy. The debt very manageable. So overall, the company's health is excellent. So the market is great, the management team. One of the things that we want to get into more is the products. So for that, one of the favorite places that I like to look into is Reddit, and this is because people tell you the honest thing about what they think when it comes to certain products. So let's do Nvidia GPUs Reddit. Let's see what people are saying about AMD. Okay, now this is about the stock. Nvidia gaming GPUs Reddit. Okay. And then the other one that we gotta look into is best AI GPUs Reddit. So that's good to know. Which graphic card should I get for deep learning? Interesting. And then Nvidia, cloud, GPU, Reddit. Let's see what people are saying. Yeah, so this is very good. The point of NPU, no one wants to use the discrete. I'm calling this as fake news because the comparison is very okay. Said someone else did AI. Yeah, this is not the best. These are the best. These are the best comments. But let's just see what they say. I think it's just the nature of the post too that Nvidia kind of seemed pretty cocky with that type of post. So let's see. Okay, how much is this? So people are recommending this. I just want to know, like, in terms of revenue, how much would one of these GPUs cost? So that way we can have an idea of like what the average. So $600 it looks like the minimum, probably more. 700, damn. All right, maybe if you can get a deal you can get a full order. So $700 people are paying for this GPUs. This is crazy, but you know, it's worth it for some people. The best, yep, this is, they're all saying the same thing. Now let's see this graph right here so we can see the comparison. Power consumption, yeah, these are all Nvidia except for this. I don't know if this Sapphire one is Nvidia too. I think it is. Yeah, anyways, so super dominant in the gaming field. It's gonna be very hard for people to catch up. Well, so people are saying the same thing about this AI. That's interesting. 4090, yeah, interesting. How much are this? Let's see. So this one looks like it's $800. By the way, one thing that Nvidia does really well is their website works really well, and so it's very easy for them to be able to sell their products right from their website. See all buying options. Let's see what they show over here. Oh wow, this one is 2,300. Wow, this is pretty crazy, but the memory is 24 gigs. So very expensive set of products, which is why I think Nvidia is really thriving, and then the demand is just insane. We already talked about this, but it's just worth repeating. Like, it is what it is. Now people are saying that. Now Google's working on its own what they call TPUs, but so far it looks like Nvidia is the way to go. So the product, great. There's really no other way to substitute it. Everybody recommends it for AI. Everybody recommends it for gaming. So it's hard to go wrong with that. It doesn't get much better. The margins are great. Prices are very high for these products. Even if Nvidia hiked up the price, a lot of the demand would still be there. So this is the sign of a great product. Now the last step, of course, is to perform the valuation just to see how much is the company really worth, and is it really worth the current price and the market cap, which we can see right now, which is around 3 trillion. Pretty crazy number for a company generating their revenues that we know that it generates. But let's put it to the test. So we can go really crazy with the valuation and do a whole bunch of calculations, be very detailed, but let's just first do a very simple valuation. We're gonna do it based on the price to sales ratio. So in this case, let's just look at the numbers. Projected growth rate, so we looked at these numbers here. I think 20% seems reasonable for Nvidia. Some people are really bullish and they think that it's gonna be way higher. For the last year, what do we have? Let's look at it here. We had 125% growth. Is that reasonable? I doubt it. I think if I was gonna go bullish, I would go 40%. That's what I would do. But I don't know. I think just to be conservative, let's put 30%. Okay, let's put 30% projected terminal value. So this is like basically how much we want the price to sales ratio to be at the end period. So best we could probably get is 25 in 5 years from now. So that's what we're gonna enter. So we have the current revenues. This is the growth being applied. Then by the end we have this revenue, and then this revenue multiplied by the 25 gives us this number, which means we're gonna discount this. So let's just discount it by 15%. I think that's a reasonable return for this type of stock. You could go lower, you could go 12% because Nvidia is a massive market cap company, and the level of risk, there's definitely some risk involved, but it's not as risky as like a company whose market cap is like, I don't know, 10 billion and the revenues are not proven or anything like that. This is like a proven company with lots of market share, very strong competitive advantages, people that go crazy for their products, paying ridiculous amount of prices. So we could go 12%. I'm gonna go with 14. I'm gonna go just with 15%. So the PV and the price, PV per share would be 149.66, the current price. Therefore, we have an upside downside of 22%. Now, the key assumption here, I think this is pretty reasonable, is the price to sales ratio 25. Is that too high? I think so. To me, it seems pretty high, but let's see if we go back to this. Let's see what's the average. So the average, it's 16, so it'd be nice to get it at 16 actually, but it goes all over the place. If we could get it to 15, then we really be getting a steal. 25 is definitely too high, so I made a mistake there. Let's go back and adjust it. 15, let's say. 15, 30%. I think the 30% is reasonable. We know this is higher than this, but keep in mind, this is just the total market growth, and Nvidia, their products are growing higher than just the market themselves. The competition, is not really there. So 30%, I think, is reasonable. And then 15 right here. So this brings it down, and then that means the investment will not be profitable. Now, if we do it at 20, will that make it profitable? Not necessarily. So yeah, the problem is the price to sales multiple is very high. Now we could use another type of model to determine the exit, but right now, yeah, it just seems very high. Oh wow, even with the 30% projected growth rate and a price to sales ratio of 20, the company is still overvalued. Yeah, so after our research, we can find that, in my opinion, the company is roughly worth $119 per share. And this is still pretty bullish, in my opinion, because sure, we had revenue growth that was much higher than the 30%, but is that sustainable? And is that sustainable over multiple years? That is the real question here, right? I do think 30% is very reasonable. 20 here is very generous as well. So what I would do is put Nvidia on your watch list and then just watch the stock price. If it goes down, then you can go ahead and buy some, or you can always invest, cost average into the particular stock. Now, the one thing we're gonna do next is to see what other people are saying and just sanity check our numbers. So let's do Nvidia stock analysis. This is gonna give us a good indication of whether our numbers are completely off or not. Here, what I like to look at is, well, this actually helps. TipRanks is pretty helpful. The other one that I like is Seeking Alpha, and that is because they perform a complete stock analysis like the one that we just did live over here. So let's see what's going on. Keep in mind, a lot of these people right here are extremely bullish. I've just seen that before from some of the reports that I've read on Seeking Alpha. But let's see. So we got this overvalued. Yeah, this is the thing, right? These people are saying very similar stuff to the analysis that we just came up with. Somebody's saying that they're buying even though they're late. Be careful with FOMO, guys. Just because you missed out doesn't mean you need to join into that particular stock. But anyways, Nvidia reversion to the mean risk. Yeah, this is probably going to talk about the issue, right? That the company has not proven to grow that fast, right? So the average is 140, the low is 90. We said 119, so it makes sense. Right now, there's for this 37 buy, 4 holds, 0 sell. I don't know. This is what they say on TipRanks, but let's see what they say over here. Okay. Yep. Robotics. Yep. The technology. Self-driving. Valuation. Okay, let's see what they did. Yeah, that is true. The competitive advantage is real. The competitive advantage is very real. 45%. See what I mean? 30% is lower. Even though it seems high, is lower. These people are saying 35%. Yeah, for long-term investors between buy and hold, we have 2% downside. So very similar analysis. very similar analysis to the one I just provided. And keep in mind, like, these guys are going pretty crazy with their revenue growth. Probably the price to sales ratio is lower, if I had to guess. Now, this person has a very bearish theory of Nvidia. So let's see. Okay, which had their worst single. Okay, so what are you saying is worth? Let's see. Yeah, their valuation is historically high, 34% according to the analyst, so we were very close. Yeah, he doesn't really say his price, he just says he's overvalued. Share buybacks could be very powerful for the company as well. So this person, 123, he's still adding to the position, which is interesting. Yeah, that's the thing too, is like companies, they might use their own chips. Like Apple, their chips are actually really good, so that's definitely a risk factor. We already talked about Google and their TPUs for AI. If those work well, you know, they could make their way to other companies. And then Sam Altman just created a new company for GPUs as well. So that's why I think for me would be a hold. The valuation is too high, and yeah, we can see other analysts have very similar opinions except for TipRanks. I have no idea why, but anyways, I really hope that you enjoy this video. We really just went through all of the different tenets that Warren Buffett advocates for in order to make a good investment decision. If you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel, share this video with a friend, and let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on Nvidia, if you're buying, if you're holding, and the reasons why. I'll see you in the next one.